"You disgust me," shouted the groom, while the mobster's daughter whispered to her father, "Daddy, make him a beggar." The words echoed off the vaulted ceiling of the cathedral, bouncing against the stained glass and slamming into Maya's chest with the force of a physical blow. The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating, broken only by the sharp intake of breath from 300 guests. Maya stood frozen in her white lace gown, the bouquet of white roses trembling in her hands. She blinked, waiting for the punchline, waiting for Mark to break into the charming, crooked smile of his and say it was just a terrible, tasteless joke to break the tension. But Mark did not smile. He stood tall in his custom-tailored tuxedo, his face twisted into a sneer of pure contempt. He looked at her not as the woman he had courted for 3 years, not as the partner he had built a life with, but as something vile he had stepped in on the street. "Did you hear me?" Mark's voice rose again, cracking with a manic energy. He turned to the crowd, spreading his arms wide as if inviting them to witness his liberation. "I said, she disgusts me. Look at her. Pathetic. Clinging to that dress like it's going to save her." Maya's lips parted, but no sound came out. Her mind was a fractured mirror, reflecting disjointed images, their first date at the pier, the night he proposed under the Eiffel Tower, the way he had held her hand when her mother died. None of it matched the man standing 3 feet away, vibrating with malice. "Mark," she finally whispered, the words scraping her throat. "What are you doing? Everyone is watching. Let them watch." Mark laughed, a harsh, barking sound. "That's the point, Maya. I want everyone to see. I want them to know that I am finally done carrying dead weight." He took a step closer to her, invading her personal space, his cologne, sandalwood and expensive scotch, suddenly smelling nauseating. "You actually thought I loved you? You. A mousy little accountant with no connections, no pedigree, and a bank account that could not cover the catering for this event." The guests shifted uncomfortably. Somewhere in the back, Maya's aunt began to sob quietly. But no one moved. They were paralyzed by the sheer audacity of the cruelty. "I needed a placeholder," Mark hissed, lowering his voice so only she in the front row could hear. "I needed someone safe, boring, and manageable while I secured the merger with the Kensington Group. Now that the deal is signed. Now that I am moving into the big leagues. I do not need a provincial little anchor dragging me down." Maya felt the blood drain from her face. The merger. He had been talking about it for months. He had used her savings to cover the initial legal fees, promising he would pay her back tenfold once the ink was dry. You used me," she stammered, the realization hitting her harder than the insults. "I leveraged you," Mark corrected, checking his platinum watch theatrically. "And now, the contract is expired. I am leaving, Maya. And I am certainly not leaving with you." The choice lay before her, stark and terrifying. She could run. She could turn around, gather her skirts, and flee down the aisle, escaping the burning gaze of the audience. Or she could fight. She could scream, demand her money back, demand an explanation. But her legs felt like lead. She was rooted to the spot, trapped in the amber of her own humiliation. She looked at him, searching for a shred of humanity. "Mark, please. Do not do this here. Let's just go to the back and talk," begging. Mark interrupted, shouting again. "Look at her. Begging like a dog. It's pathetic." It was then that the silence was broken by a small, melodic voice from the front pew. "Daddy." Maya's eyes darted to the right. Sitting in the VIP section, seats Mark had reserved for potential investors, was a man who looked like he had been carved out of granite. He wore a black suit that cost more than Maya's entire life, and his eyes were dark, dangerous voids. Next to him sat a little girl, no older than 7, in a velvet dress, clutching a small teddy bear. The girl tugged on the man's sleeve. She was not looking at Maya, she was staring at Mark with a frown that looked out of place on her angelic face. "Daddy," she whispered again, loud enough to cut through the tension. "Make him a beggar." Mark stopped mid-laugh. He turned his head slowly, his eyes landing on the child. For a second, confusion clouded his features, but it was quickly replaced by his newfound arrogance. He was the CEO of a company that had just merged with a giant. He was untouchable. Who let the kid in? Mark scoffed, gesturing dismissively at the man and his daughter. This is not a daycare. And you, he pointed a finger at the dark-haired man, control your brat. She's interrupting my moment. The man, Damien, did not blink. He sat with a stillness that was more terrifying than any shout. He slowly crossed one leg over the other, his gaze fixed on Mark with the detached interest of a scientist observing a cockroach. Maya felt a surge of protective instinct override her shock. She took a step toward the pews. Mark, stop it. She's just a child. She's an annoyance. Mark snapped, spinning back to Maya. He reached out and shoved her. It was not a hard shove, but in her heels and heavy dress, it was enough to make her stumble. She fell backward, catching herself on the altar railing, the breath knocked out of her. A collective gasp ripped through the church. You are weak, Maya, Mark spat, towering over her. That SYU re on the floor. That SYU LL always be on the floor. You think you re noble for defending some random kid? You re nobody. Without me, without the lifestyle I allowed you to taste, you are absolutely nothing. Maya looked up at him from the cold marble floor. Her veil was torn, hanging lopsided off her head. The pain in her ankle throbbed, but the pain in her chest was agonizing. He was right, was not he? She had given him everything. Her savings, her trust, her prime years. She had alienated friends who told her he was too ambitious. She had made herself small so he could feel big. And now, she was on her knees in front of everyone she knew, being told she was worthless. I own this town now, Mark declared, pacing back and forth, fueled by his own adrenaline. I have the Kensington contract. I have the capital. I could buy this church and turn it into a parking lot tomorrow if I wanted to. And you? He looked down at Maya with a sneer. You can go back to your rented apartment and rot. Damien, the man in the front row, finally moved. It was a subtle motion. He placed a large, gentle hand over his daughter's ears, shielding her from the profanity Mark was beginning to spew. Then, he looked at Maya. For the first time since the nightmare began, Maya saw something other than pity or mockery. In Damien's dark eyes, there was a quiet, simmering rage. Not directed at her, but for her. He gave a nearly imperceptible nod, acknowledging her attempt to defend his daughter even while she was down. Daddy, the girl said again, pulling his hand away from her ear. He pushed the pretty lady. I do not like him. Neither do I, Bella, Damien said. His voice was a deep baritone, smooth like aged whiskey but cold as ice. Mark laughed, a high-pitched, hysterical sound. Oh, you do not like me. Do you know who I am? I'm Mark Salinger. I'm the man of the hour. Damien did not answer. He simply reached into the inner pocket of his jacket and withdrew a sleek, black smartphone. He did not look at the screen, his eyes remained locked on Mark. He tapped the screen once. Then twice. He held the phone to his ear. Execute it, Damien said into the phone. Just 2 words. Flat. Emotionless. He hung up and placed the phone on his knee. Mark rolled his eyes. Ooh, calling the police. Calling your lawyer? Go ahead. I have the best legal team in the city on retainer as of this morning. Maya pulled herself up, using the railing for support. She felt hollowed out. Mark, just go, she whispered, her voice trembling. Please. Just leave. I'm not going anywhere until I'm done. Mark roared, turning back to the guests. And I want my ring back, Maya. Now. Take it off. Mark extended his hand, palm open, demanding the diamond engagement ring. It was a symbol of his ownership, the final thing he could take from her. Take it off. He screamed. Suddenly, a chime sounded. It was a text message notification. Loud and clear in the acoustic perfection of the church. Then another. Then 3 more in rapid succession. It was not just Mark's phone. It was the phones of the guests in the first few rows, the investors, the bankers, the business partners Mark had insisted on inviting to show off. A ripple of confusion moved through the crowd as people reached into their pockets. Mark felt his own phone vibrate violently against his chest. he ignored it, his eyes manic. "The ring, Maya." "Mark," a voice called out from the second row. It was Mr. Henderson, the bank manager who had approved Mark's massive business loan. His face was pale, illuminated by the glow of his screen. "Mark, you need to check your email." "Not now, Henderson." "Mark, look at the news," someone else shouted from the other side of the aisle. The vibration in Mark's pocket became a continuous buzz. Irritated, he snatched the phone from his pocket. "What? What is so important that you re-interrupting my?" He froze. The screen was flooded with notifications. Alerts from his bank. Alerts from the stock exchange. Emails from legal compliance. Alert, line of credit revoked, insufficient collateral. Alert, contract number 4490K, Kensington merger, terminated effective immediately due to breach of ethics clause. Alert, personal assets frozen pending fraud investigation. What is this?" Mark muttered, his thumb scrolling frantically. "This is a glitch. This has to be a glitch." He looked up, his eyes wild. He spotted Mr. Henderson. "Henderson. What is this? Why is the bank recalling the loan?" Henderson stood up, looking terrified. He glanced at the men in the front row, Damien, and then back at Mark. The primary guarantor for the Kensington deal pulled out, Mark. Without their backing, you over-leveraged by 300%. The bank's automated risk system just liquidated your holdings to cover the margin call. Guarantor. Mark stammered. The guarantor is Vance Industries. They ironclad. Yes, a deep voice cut through the chaos. We are. Mark spun around. Damien was standing now. He buttoned his jacket slowly, his movements graceful and predatory. He loomed over the space, sucking the air out of the room. Vance Industries. Mark whispered, the color draining from his face until he looked like a corpse. You Vance. Damien Vance, the men corrected calmly. And as of 30 seconds ago, I have exercised the character clause in our subcontracting agreement. It allows me to void all deals if the partner proves to be a liability to my company's reputation. Liability. Mark shrieked. I have not done anything to your company. Damien stepped out of the pew. He walked past Mark, ignoring him completely, and stopped in front of Maya. He looked at her torn veil, her tear-stained face, and the red mark on her arm where she had hit the railing. He turned back to Mark. You assaulted a woman in front of 300 witnesses. You verbally abused a child. You displayed a lack of judgment, control, and basic humanity. Damien tilted his head. That is a liability. Mark's phone pinged again. A loud, final sound. Mark looked down. Account balance, 0.00. Operator negative balance, minus 0.00. Negative balance, 0.00. Operator negative balance, minus 4,500,000.00. No, Mark wheezed. No. You see not do this. I am rich. I am Mark Salinger. You are a beggar, the little girl, Bella, said clearly from her seat. She hugged her teddy bear tighter. Daddy did it. The trap snapped shut. Mark had not just lost a deal, he had lost the very foundation of his existence. He had built his castle on sand, and Damien Vance was the tide. Mark fell to his knees. It was not a theatrical gesture this time, his legs simply gave out. He stared at his phone, tapping the screen uselessly, trying to refresh the banking app, praying for the numbers to change. Maya, he gasped, looking up at her. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a pathetic, sniveling desperation. Maya, tell him. Tell him it was a joke. Tell him we in love. If you tell him, maybe he'll reverse it. Maya looked down at the men who, 5 minutes ago, had looked at her like she was garbage. He was crawling toward her now, reaching for the hem of her dress with shaking hands. Maya, baby, please. I did it for us. I was stressed. You know how I get when I'm stressed. Maya felt a strange sensation in her chest. It was not anger anymore. It was not sadness. It was clarity. Pure, crystalline clarity. She looked at Mark and saw him for exactly what he was, a small, hollow man who filled himself with money to pretend he had substance. Now that the money was gone, he was invisible. She stepped back, pulling her dress out of his reach. "You did not do it for us, Mark," she said, her voice steady and strong, echoing in the quiet church. "And I'm not your baby. I'm the woman who just dodged a bullet." Mark began to sob, a jagged, ugly sound. "I have nothing. I have nothing left." Damien gestured to the back of the church. Two large men in dark suits, Damien's personal security, materialized from the shadows. They did not need instructions. They walked up the aisle, their footsteps heavy and decisive. "Get him out of here," Damien said, his voice bored. "He's trespassing." "Wait. No. You see not." Mark screamed as the guards hoisted him up by his armpits. His feet dragged uselessly against the marble floor, his tuxedo bunching up. "Maya. Help me. Damien, please. I'll do anything." His screams faded as the heavy oak doors of the church were thrown open and he was tossed out onto the concrete steps. The doors slammed shut with a finality that shook the dust from the rafters. Silence returned to the church, but the air was different now. It was not heavy with tension, it was light, electric. Maya took a deep breath. She reached up and unpinned the torn veil, letting it drop to the floor. She slipped the diamond ring off her finger. It felt heavy, tainted. She looked at it for a moment, then dropped it. It hit the floor with a tiny clink and rolled away, coming to rest near a vent. She looked up and found Damien watching her. There was no pity in his eyes, only respect. "Are you all right?" he asked. It was a genuine question. "No," Maya admitted, wiping a stray tear from her cheek. "But I will be." Damien nodded. He extended a hand toward her. It was not a demand, and it was not charity. It was an offer. An open palm, large and scarred, waiting for her choice. "My car is outside," Damien said. "Bella and I are going for ice cream. It seems we have a celebration to attend to. You're welcome to join us." Maya looked at the guests. They were staring at her, waiting to see what she would do. Waiting to see if she would crumble. She looked at the altar where she had almost promised her life to a monster. Then she looked at the dangerous stranger and his little girl, who was now smiling at her shyly. Maya realized she had walked into this church a victim, willing to settle for a man who tolerated her. She was walking out as a woman who had seen the world burn down and survived. She reached out and placed her hand in Damien's. His grip was warm and solid. "Ice cream sounds perfect," Maya said. She did not look back as they walked down the aisle together. She stepped over the dropped ring, past the stunned guests, and out into the bright, blinding sunlight of a new life. Behind her, the ruins of her wedding lay scattered, but Maya did not care. She was finally free.